Live stream audio test, 1, 2.
Hello, everybody. I would like to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Council in the new Council chamber. There is an option to join the meeting via Microsoft Teams for those members and officers who are unable to attend in person. They will be able to participate in the debate remotely, but will not be in attendance formally. And members joining remotely will not be able to vote, nor count towards the quorum of this meeting. We're streaming today's meeting live on the internet, and a recorded version will be available to view within 48 hours on the North Somerset Council website. Okay, I shall go to our agenda. Have we got any apologies for absence?
Chairperson, apologies received in advance from Councillors Pilgrim and Tristram.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, I am very pleased to say, is the outgoing chairperson is going to start the election of the new chairperson, or new chair, or new chair. We won't go down that route. So can I have nominations for chair of North Somerset Council? Any nominations?
I was just thinking then, is there anyone that might be suitable? And I would like to propose Councillor Wendy Griggs to be chairperson, chairman, whatever, of North Somerset Council for 23-24.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? I believe, yes, we do have Councillor Caniford. So can I have a vote? All those in favour of Councillor Griggs becoming the next chair? That's carried. So, can I ask Councillor Griggs to come and take her new position? I was sitting here. That's yours.
Sitting here. I'm sitting there now. I'd like to express my thanks to Councillor Karen Havison for the last year, and I wonder whether you would like to say a few words.
Okay, I'll continue. Well, I would like to say what a great pleasure and a real honour it's been to firstly represent my ward for the last 4 years, but especially to represent this council as a chairperson for the last year. So thanks very much to all of you for your support, for your kind words, and also your friendship. As we all know, this recent period has been a roller coaster for all of us, with huge, unprecedented challenges and big national events. So thanks to all of you, the officers especially, and the councillors, and especially all of you in the previous Rainbow Coalition, to show that local politics can rise above the bickering of party politics and work together to tackle difficult issues. I feel very strongly that this is what most of our residents want, and I'm proud to have been part of it. I'm confident that the new 4-year period with another such coalition and many new councillors will continue in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. And now it's the appointment of Vice Chairperson of the Council. Do I have any nominations? Councillor Crockford-Hawley nominates. Do I have a seconder? What? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, John. Oh, sorry, Councillor Crockford-Hawley.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've known Peter Crewe for a long time, both in Woodspring and North Somerset days, and of course on Western Town Council. He's helpful and supportive, constructively critical, affable and sociable. He's fair-minded and experienced. His only problem is he's a Tory. But I'm prepared to forgive that little indiscretion. I think he'll be an excellent vice chairman and eventually chairman. And there's something I would like to impart to all the members, and he probably won't thank me. He's a little older than I am. In fact, today is his 80th birthday. And there's one thing I know that Peter likes at 6 o'clock, and today it's past that hour. So on behalf of everybody, I'd like to present him with something that he particularly enjoys at 6 o'clock. With your permission, Chairman, I'll take it across the chamber.
Could I have a seconder for that nomination? Thank you, a seconder here. And do I give him something?
So once he comes forward and accepts office, you give that to Karen and those two to Peter.
All those in favour, could I have a vote, please?
It's Karen, Chairperson.
Thank you. Would you like to come forward, Councillor Crewe? This is for him? No. We now move to public participation. I've been asked to change the order slightly, so the second person on your list will be speaking last, not second. Could I ask Simon DeLance Holmes, please, to step up?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm here as a resident of Copse Road in Clevedon, which for those who don't know that is one street behind the beach in Clevedon. And I've lived there for 17 years. I've raised a family of 3 boys. In fact, from my second boy onwards, they were born in Clevedon. So my first boy was 2 when we moved here. I know there's been a lot of emotion regarding the changes that happened to the beach. From my perspective, I would like to see a full review, and that to include proper public consultation, including meetings in Clevedon, which allowed the local residents to have their say. I understand that it was undertaken, that the actual consultation during the COVID period, which obviously prevented a lot of public meetings, but some people weren't engaged because of that. There's a number of residents, especially elderly ones, and maybe poorer residents who don't actually have the facilities to access, or even the knowledge to access public consultations online. So just to give a quick background, as I said, lived there for 17 years. I stood actually for the district council, and so I knocked on a number of doors during that period. And there were many different views, and again, this led me to believe that there really needs to be a proper consultation process. I think that unfortunately, because there was been a lot of heat and energy amongst the local people, and I'm still seeing that now. I'm seeing what appears to be just disobedience on the seafront and on the local roads, people going down one-way streets when they can't have entered that one-way street unless they entered it 200 yards beforehand, knowing exactly what they're doing. As I say, although there is a lot of feeling against the actual proposed existing layout, I felt the same was with Hill Road, and speaking with residents and locals and being a local myself, once that bedded in, people felt a little bit more comfortable with it. I think the one-way system, 20 mile an hour, and the turn into the beach, which stops cars whipping into the beach, are very good changes. The parking seems to be the one thing which, almost without exception, causes a lot of feeling. I don't believe, as the Conservatives have proposed, the perpendicular parking to the beach would work particularly well on a one-way system. We all saw people trying to navigate into that, and not everyone's a great parker. So perhaps a 45-degree angle towards the pier, for example, might be a good solution. But as I say, my real feeling is that there should be a proper consultation and public meetings where people can actually put forward all their views. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker then, Cathy East.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. I'm Cathy East. I was born in Clevedon. I've lived there all my life. Thank you for your time today and congratulations on being elected. It's great to hear that the new leader at North Somerset Council, Mike Bowers, at last admitting that the way the changes to Clevedon seafront were made was poor and agrees some adjustments are required. Our independent audit by a road safety planner and expert found that it's unsafe for less mobile cyclists and families, and in some places is bordering on dangerous. Only a few weeks ago, a lady cyclist broke her wrist falling off her bike there, and that's after 5 years with only 3 accidents in the whole area, which is an exemplary record. These are only a few of the road safety concerns they raised when carrying out a walkthrough audit of the scheme. Pedestrians are now at increased risk because they have to cross a 2-way cycle lane and also between parked vehicles in the new parallel parking. There's inadequate narrow pedestrian strips between the parallel parking spaces and the cycleway, which introduce the risk of conflict between pedestrians and either cyclists or those getting out of a parked vehicle. The position of the disabled parking spaces introduce new risks to these more vulnerable visitors to the seafront. And the roundabout is too narrow here and it's unsafe. You've seen it on the news, it's a bit of a joke. At the southern end of the scheme, cyclists leaving the cycleway and continuing on Elton Road are required to cross the carriageway where visibility is significantly reduced by a bend in the road, and there's a bus parked there as well, so people can't see it if they're getting off the bus. At the northern end of the beach, of the most significant concern is for our road safety expert, as the changes here introduce the risk of conflict between road users. And there's a steep hill that the cyclists come down, and then they can potentially hit a brick wall that's been built there as well. So it's really dangerous. I could go on. We eagerly await North Somerset's required completed Stage 3 audit safety scheme and wonder when this will take place, as the scheme continues to be delivered in rather a slow and piecemeal approach. In fact, today, some more bits have been taken out of it, which we noticed. And there's constant tinkering and amendment to the scheme, which gives rise to significant ongoing safety concerns and risks to road users. Somebody could be seriously injured if something isn't done. So it's welcome news to hear that you're going to listen to the electorate, but tinkering around the edges with this scheme is not going to be enough. They're merely token adjustments. So I call on you, as the last speaker said, to have a public meeting of people in Clevedon and actually get some proper feedback on what people want to see. and rather than just a paper-ticking exercise. We've asked for this for over 2 years, so thank you that I'm here today and able to ask it to you in person. This is the first time I've actually been able to see you all. So this will really show that you are new and listening council. But I'm a little bit worried that you say that at a minimum you will review the processes and procedures, because that means absolutely nothing. That's just navel-gazing by North Somerset Council. We ourselves had a straw poll on the Save Our Seafront site of over 1,000 people, and 97% of them wanted to either changes to the seafront made or bring it back to front-facing parking like it was before. There's also been another one put on Facebook by somebody else who's actually in favour of the scheme, and 73% of the people on that voted to say they wanted to go back to how it was. So please, be a listening council. Listen to the electorate. We voted you in. We expect to see changes, and we expect to see changes fairly soon, or at least a public meeting first before we make the changes. Don't just think you know what we want. Come and ask us first. I know there's a proposal tonight to put some changes on, but you haven't asked people what they want. Please ask us. We'll tell you what we want. Okay, I might not get what I want exactly. You know, nobody's going to get everything they want, but at least come and listen to us and find out what we want. That's a plea. Come and listen to us for the first time. That's why you're here. That's why you voted in, to listen to the people who vote you in. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Could I ask Nick Ring to come up now, please?
Good evening, Council and Madam Chairman. Clevedon Public Realm. My name is Nick Ring. I'm the Commercial Director of Tiffin Restaurant Group, which operates around 9 venues, 2 of which are affected by the Public Realm changes, the Beach and Hill Road. We employ between 60 and 70 staff at these 2 venues alone. We pay large rates on both and contribute around £30,000 to £40,000 each year in community good causes. Firstly, my thanks to Council Leader Mike Bell, Deputy Leader Catherine Gibbons and Transport and Highways Exec Hannah Young for meeting with us over the last couple of days. It's taken 2.5 years for anyone from NSC to reach out and meet despite multiple requests. It's a good start. The proof will be in the actions, so we will continue to watch and work with NSC to ensure the whole scheme is reversed, accepting the 20-mile limit. I'm not here to go over well-documented ground. Everybody knows what an unmitigated disaster on all levels the scheme has been. I notice there are still, however, some in the chamber entrenched in the belief it hasn't been, despite all the evidence and feedback to the contrary. I am, however, encouraged of a fresh, progressive approach now they have been sidelined from the exec. I am here to request on behalf of the residents and many long-standing businesses a change in culture amongst both the councillors and particularly the officers of NSC. It cannot be right that it has taken 2.5 years to agree to meet, that the council and its officers, the previous council and its officers, acted unprofessionally by refusing to even acknowledge or answer the barrister we engaged over a 6-month period. Separate to this, any requests for information in the public domain were met with a litany of excuses, stall tactics, or complete failure to supply. NSC simply shut up shop and buried heads in the sand. All this despite the scheme today failing to deliver on any front, running wildly over budget, damaging the local economy, discriminating against the less able and young families, can't be signed off because it's unsafe, is aesthetically displeasing to the classic Victorian seafront and shops, has forced vehicles onto roads that can't cope, and in many cases damaged and impacted the lives of residents. Not a single good thing has come from it, and nobody to this day from NSC can prove otherwise or present evidence to the contrary. The culture of lump it or like it, embedded within the past administration and its current officers, needs to be changed before trust can be rebuilt. £700,000 of wasted taxpayers' money. Your officers were, and still are, like teenagers who have got hold of their parents' credit card and gone berserk. Where were the checks and balances? Where was the governance? How could it be that the scheme was so badly managed? Why, when it was obvious that things were going badly wrong, no one took proper financial control? And who should be culpable? Again this week, you are tinkering around the beach making more changes to a scheme that should have been finished on December the 3rd last year. Can we please cease from any further changes until you have had a proper review, including a public meeting, to truly understand the gravity of the situation? Any organisation, public or private, that has acted in such a wasteful, uncontrolled, maverick manner must conduct an internal investigation. It would be immoral not to seek answers as to the failings on multiple levels of those highly paid civil servants you entrusted this project to. How you explain and justify to the DOT and active travel the wasteful use of funding will no doubt have bearing on future funds. Tiffin Group alone looks after around 50,000 guests a year. After 14 years, we are inexplicably entwined in nearly every aspect of Clevedon and the surrounding areas. People trust us. Our venues are forums for discussion on many topics. In 14 years, I have never heard this topic discussed for so long and with such intensity. It continues to this very day. And it should come as no surprise that when we were ignored by the previous administration, it didn't take much to mobilise the electorate to rid the council of those who had caused this nationally recognised farce. I want to end on a brighter note, which is how we go about our day-to-day. A listening council with controlled and properly managed offices, coupled with the energy and savvy of local businesses and the residents who trust them, can be a very powerful force for good change and a positive working environment, whatever the political divide. We all want the best for this wonderful part of the UK. So please, change the culture, recruit good managers, instill better governance, and find all ways possible to reach out directly to business and residents of Clevedon. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I please then ask Malcolm Simmons to come up?
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Malcolm Simmons. I live at 14 The Beach and have run my seafront business, Beach Pottery, for nearly 40 years. In the first public realms design, Sustrans were unaware of our business and vehicle access needed for ourselves and number 13. We explained to the designer we would be unable to enter our driveway on the current plan. She disputed this, so brought her own car and failed to succeed, with more turning space required. This resulted in further alterations to the seafront and the arrival of the now known wiggly lines. I have an email from Joe Walker stating the scheme was amended to ensure access to driveways. She also said deliveries have dedicated bays. We have provided Councillor Bell and Councillor Young with photographic evidence to state how this is being abused. People are parking for unlimited time on the loading bay, which forces deliveries onto the wavy lines, where vehicles, including coaches, are parking adjacent to our house and drive, and also on the pedestrian crossings. This means we're unable to access our driveway. This is happening all day and evening. My wife is nervous about taking the car out now, as she knows this will be a problem when she returns. Our 4-page letter to North Somerset Council with safety issues and concerns for our access and business was answered with a generic reply from a Kickstart apprentice. Our business has been affected with parking reduced from 64 to 27 spaces. We had previously been told that our business will increase by 20% due to the additional cycling and walking. Customers have stated in our shop that they are unlikely to come again to the seafront as they cannot park. Collections for us have become increasingly difficult as some of our garden items are heavy and need transport. In the last 2 years, we have had 5 sales to cyclists. From a safety point of view, cars, vans and cyclists are regularly going in the wrong direction along the beach. Some unaware of the no entry signs and others just don't care. I stopped a bike from Marine Parade outside our house, going at least 30 miles per hour. He said he saw the no entry sign, but was going too fast to stop. Many cars are now not observing the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit and are unaware that the yellow paths across the road are in fact pedestrian crossings. With poor signage, cyclists continue to use the footpath from the sailing club to the Salthouse Fields. I have seen families with young children struggling to reach the promenade safely. A young child I saw last Friday, I witnessed her, she had fallen onto the gravel pedestrian path, cutting her arm. The paths are disintegrating with very sharp gravel and are unsuitable for a seaside location. The new disabled parking by Scarlett's Cafe is dangerous, with no yellow hatch lines. Drivers exit their vehicles onto traffic coming from behind. The Victorian seafront and the pier has been an attraction to visitors for many years and has now lost its character and charm. With over 6,000 objections to this scheme, we hope the new administration will make the right decision and reverse the seafront to its original status. This will bring back the enjoyment for all visitors, including the elderly and those who enjoyed parking facing the sea. Sadly, this scheme has created major problems which did not exist before and needs to be urgently addressed. We welcome Councillor Mike Bell and the new administration team, and I thank you tonight for listening to our concerns.
Thank you very much. And could I ask Derek Smith to come up? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Sir, members of the Council. My name is Derek Smith. I've come to this Council meeting this evening purely on a personal basis. I have no commercial interest whatsoever on the seafront at Clevedon. I am here just solely as a resident. That said, my family have lived at 10 The Beach, Clevedon for the past 70 years. And in all that time, we have never had any problem accessing our property from the highway. Since the implementation of this new road layout, the parking issues have escalated to an intolerable level. Controversial wiggly lines that have been laid down in front of ours and other residents' houses were supposedly to allow us turning space to manoeuvre our vehicles in and out of our very narrow driveways. Right from the onset of the scheme, when my wife and I met Paola Spinner and Frankie Mann on the 16th of March 2021, we expressed our concerns regarding our access, but were guaranteed by both officers that our vehicular access would not be impeded in any way. Joe Walker, in an email recently sent to a seafront resident, also confirmed that the scheme was amended to ensure access to driveways. To date, residents do not believe that amendment has been taken into account or implemented. Now that the scheme is finished, our original concerns have been proven to be right. The wiggly lines do not comply with anything in the highway code and do not have any form of restricted parking road markings at all. So rather than giving us turning space and clear access, they are just an invitation for everyone to park their cars, vans, motorcycles, even coaches on the area, consequently blocking our driveway on a daily basis. We have taken numerous photographs of all this to prove it, and I have brought some along this evening if anybody is interested in having a look. Sorry, I lost my place. If we want to leave or enter our driveway, we have the deeply distressing task of confrontations with visitors who have parked, often unwittingly, on the wiggly lines. This has resulted in arguments, rudeness, hostility, and even the threat of physical violence. The constant stress of these conflicts is undoubtedly taking a toll on both mine and my wife's health and well-being. We are even further isolated by the constant blockage of our driveway because no one can just call in to see us anymore. It is deeply distressing for us to be trapped in our own home and not to get the previously regular visits from friends, family, children and grandchildren. Our lifestyle has been completely compromised and disrupted for the lack of some simple road markings. Obviously, this means vehicles will... I note from page 2 of the proposed plan accompanying the North Somerset Notice of Intent for Clevedon that there are still no parking restrictions shown along the wiggly lines on the beach. I ask, why not? Obviously, this means vehicles will continue to be parked there and our entrapment will continue, especially now that time-limited parking is to be reinstalled. People will believe they can blithely just park and disappear for 4 hours thinking it's a parking bay. On the same page of the plan, a red line is shown running along the cycle track in Hull Road. This depicts where the council has been forced to add double yellow ticks to the yellow lines already in situ, because they realise it is the only way to stop blue badge holders and delivery vehicles from parking there. I believe doing the same thing along the wiggly lines on the beach is the only way to enforce no parking restrictions. Parking restrictions need to be very clear and precise for the public to understand, otherwise they will continuously abuse them. I know road markings are not aesthetically pleasing and the council seem to have a reluctance to install them. But with due respect to all the councillors here, none of you have to live with this constant upsetting and unbearable problem. I believe they are the most practical and certainly the cheapest solution to alleviate all the immediate parking issues for residents on the beach. I know procedures have to be followed and the council wheels can turn very slowly. So I am asking that those wheels to be put in motion now, with councillors voting to install the said lines as soon as possible, prior to any future major redevelopment that may be agreed upon later. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I call on Dr. Sophie Gretton next?
Madam Chairman, councillors, officers, thank you for taking time to hear me this evening. I'm here as a concerned local resident, this time an hour inland from the seafront, to provide some context to Roots Allotments and their plan to install one of the UK's largest commercial allotment sites, with 700 allotments, permanent structures, and a car park for at least 80 cars. And they plan to do this in 25 acres of beautiful North Somerset green belt. Next to Lee Woods, a site of special scientific interest, surrounded by Grade 2 listed buildings and accessed off the very busy and hazardous A369. I'm here to explain that they intend to do this by exploiting a perceived loophole in the law to circumvent normal planning procedure in order to expedite their own commercial gain. Roots is a venture capital-backed commercial company with no connections into North Somerset. They're using outdated agricultural laws in order to apply for a certificate of lawful development, which, if granted, would set a precedent and result in this and future proposals being able to go ahead without any control or influence from North Somerset Council. This is a particular risk because Roots want to lease not just 25, but 100 acres in Abbotsleigh, and they're looking to expand rapidly to reach their VC funding targets. I would respectfully ask the Council to refuse their application for a certificate on the grounds that their application does not meet the criteria. This doesn't stop the development going ahead. It simply means that Roots must follow due process by applying for planning permission. This will ensure that their plans are subject to an appropriate level of scrutiny, which includes material planning considerations, such as weight of traffic using the narrow junction of Forestry England Car Park Road, highway safety, exemplified today by a car crash at the junction, and the environmental impact on a site that is home to nesting red-listed skylarks, rare horseshoe bats, and green-winged orchids. It should be noted that to date, there has been no traffic management or safety plan presented to by Roots to the Council. They've provided minimal detail about exactly what they are proposing, but advertising on their website and social media gives their clear intentions. The decision to grant a certificate of lawful development is a legal matter, but one that's not clear-cut. We have submitted legal opinion to the Council explaining how Roots' application lacks sufficient information for a certificate to be granted, and why an 80-plus car park should not fall under permitted development. In summary, we urge the Council to refuse the certificate on legal grounds and to require that Roots apply for planning permission. This safeguards our community and our landscape for future generations. I very much thank you for your time, and if there's any doubt as to whether the certificate should be granted, the safest decision is no. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask if Alan Rice is here? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Alan Rice. I assist residents, tenants in private rent with problems with their landlords. I operate under the banner Western Housing Action. Congratulations on your electoral success, some for the first time, some like Councillor Crockford Hawley for the umpteenth time. I too am celebrating. At last, after 4 years since Boris Johnson promised at the end of Section 21 evictions, it has come to fruition. Michael Gove announced last Wednesday the Renters Reform Bill, which ends 6 months tenancies, ends Section 21 no-fault evictions, stops discrimination against those on benefits, stops discrimination against those with pets, and stops discrimination against those with families. It had already been proven in law unlawful to discriminate against those on benefits, but now it is absolutely clear. This will inconvenience a well-known Western letting agent. No end. Only last month, a lady approached me who has an assistance dog and had received a Section 21 notice. She has been repeatedly refused places because she has a dog. And another tenant I'm assisting faces no children refusals time and time again. It's been a long time coming, but the Renters Reform Bill does bode well. What also bodes well is the new executive title held by Councillor Maris, Executive Member for Homes and Health. The link between poor housing and poor health is undeniable. Not only because of the poor condition of properties, but the mental anxiety and depression caused by 6 months tenancies and Section 21 notices. That brings me to my own homes and health problem. I have a 7-year itch. Not one that's occurred after 7 years, but one that's been ever present for 7 years. It was back in 2016 that the North Somerset Council Executive Member for Housing approved the introduction of licensing of private landlords in Central Western. After the threat of a judicial review brought about by some landlords, the proposal was put on hold. Shortly afterwards, I asked Councillor Ashton, as leader of North Somerset Council, in a live Q&A session on BBC Radio Bristol, whether licensing of landlords was still an option on the table, or dead and buried, as reported by the landlords to the local press. Councillor Ashton replied, it was still on the table. Both Labour and the Liberal Democrats promised to bring in licensing in their 2019 manifestos. And they've repeated the promise in their 2023 manifestos. In 2016, National Green Party co-leader Carla Denyer called for the extension of landlord licensing in Bristol to include her own Clifton Down ward. Around 1,000 private rent properties in North Somerset contain Category 1 hazards. To quote Cotswold District Council Fit to Rent document, Category 1 hazards are those where the most serious harm outcome is identified. For example, death, permanent paralysis, permanent loss of consciousness, loss of a limb, or serious fractures. The Renters Reform Bill alone will not solve that problem. It is time for those North Somerset Council manifesto promises to be met. It's time for landlord licensing in North Somerset. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, could I ask Richard Westwood to close the public participation? Yes, there he is.
Good evening, everybody. As a sometime chairman of this council, I can assure you I don't plan on making a habit of coming back to the public speaking spot. I have been involved as an elected councillor for local government for 28 years and counting, as I'm still a member of Clevedon Town Council. I do have a deep and abiding interest in local democracy, and I like to think that any council I have anything to do with is functioning properly. Which brings me to my topic for tonight. I'm here to talk to North Somerset Council about issues that have arisen in Clevedon Town Council recently, where two recently elected members of North Somerset Council are working in concert with Mr. Carl Francis Pester to wreck the lawful proceedings of Clevedon Town Council. whose crime was attempting to reduce the number of committees it currently has from 6 to 3 in order to better utilise staff resources and thereby save the public's money. This was recommended to Clevedon Town Council by its auditors and properly voted through in February of this year. The two councillors I referred to are Chris Blades and David Shopland, both now apparently Conservative councillors. Members may already be aware that Mr Francis Pester was unsuccessful in his attempt to become the elected district councillor for Blagdon and Churchill in the recent elections. He stood as a Conservative here, selected by the Western Conservative Association, apparently. The people of Clevedon weren't so lucky. He stood as an independent, apparently, in Clevedon, with North Somerset Conservative Association not selecting him. That's interesting, isn't it? He appears to be embarked on a course of action which is attempting to spearhead a coup d'etat at Clevedon Town Council using rumour, speculation and gaslighting to cobble together a majority sufficient to wreck the Town Council.
Richard, could I ask what this has to do with this full council meeting this evening?
Because it is part of North Somerset's duties to act as the overarching authority as far as behaviour within town councils, town and parish councils is concerned.
Could I please... Thank you, Councillor Shopland. Thank you, Councillor Shopland. I'm just discussing with the solicitor.
Madam Chairman, I would agree that this council has standards complaints jurisdiction over town and parish councillors. It does not have jurisdiction over how parish councils effect their business. So I think it is questionable as to whether the speech so far is within remit. Is it about the conduct of individual councillors? Because if it is about matters of decision of the town council, this council has nothing to do with those decisions.
I shall take what's been said and I'll round off.
Thank you. Please...
I'll round off.
Thank you very much. We are on the case. Thank you very much. Please sit down, Councillor Shopland. We know what we're doing. Please round up, Richard Westwood.
I'll round up. Don't worry. My purpose in speaking tonight was to prepare this council and, of course, the people of North Somerset for more possible reports of errant behaviour to the standards panel, but also to appeal to the two aforementioned councillors, Blades and Shopland, to consider carefully before supporting any more actions
Thank you.
they may take.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Item 5. Petitions to be presented by members. None as yet. Could I ask if there are any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest tonight from anybody? None. Thank you. Minutes of the meeting of the 21st of February. Do I have a proposer? Do I have a seconder, please? All those in favour, hands up, please. Is that carried? Thank you, that's carried. Now I move on to item 8. Oh, I missed me out. Motions by members. I think we've got one from Councillors Pryke and Smith. Councillor Pryke, would you like to introduce your motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Pryke from Clevedon Walton, he, him. Firstly, may I ask the chairperson that the upcoming vote be by way of a named vote, please?
We need to do a vote on that after you have presented your motion and you have a seconder and various other stages.
Thank you, Chair, for your wisdom on that. I could give a wonderful speech that I've prepared for this, but to be honest with you, the residents of Clevedon, I think, have spoken tonight. I think it is overtly clear to everyone in this chamber the strength of feeling in Clevedon with regards to the seafront. And I think it is clear that this needs to be changed as soon as possible. And I welcome very much the incoming leader's comments the other day with regards to holding a review. My fear and the reason that I wanted to put forth this motion is that the review could kick this into the long grass, and that is the last thing that we can afford. A review spending a year talking to people is a year that Clevedon spends, again, with wiggly lines and a yellow brick road. And as I think you've all seen, I think that's a year that Clevedon just can't stand. How is it that we can face a summer where someone can open their car door and a cyclist can go straight over the top? I fear a summer of chaos, my fellow councillors. And that is why this motion was brought today. In fact, in the recent election, 77% of people who voted in Clevedon voted for candidates who said that they would make changes back to the seafront. I don't quite know what else we need to do, to be honest. Our job as councillors is to listen to our electorate, to listen to our constituents. And the people of Clevedon are speaking. I hope that we will listen.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for your motion?
Yep, Councillor Smith will second.
We need the support of 7 people if you want to debate this. Do I have 7 hands up? You need
Chairman, that's not the seconder or the motion mover. Could I have 7 others? Yep, you've clearly got that, Chairperson.
Thank you. At this point, could I ask the executive member, please, Councillor Young, to actually talk to this motion before we enter the debate, please?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to ask Councillors Pryke and Smith to consider withdrawing their motion, and I will oppose it for the following reasons. I actually think it's abundantly clear, particularly given the contributions that we've heard from members of the public this evening, and I thank them for those contributions, that any further changes to Clevedon Seafront need to be made with full engagement and involvement of the local community, an understanding of the wider traffic management implications of any tweaking that is suggested, the costs involved and where any further investment is going to come from. Councillors Pryke and Smith tell us that they have a mandate to ask for these specific changes detailed in the motion, although in every ward in Clevedon, more people voted against Conservative candidates than for them. Councillor Pryke, you're my own ward councillor, and so if you do have any mandate, I think it would have been in your election literature, and it appears to me that this says that you will fight to reverse the changes in Clevedon Seafront, not tweak and amend with your own proposals. You also say that in saving our seafront, you're committed to working with the local community. I understand that not even the Save Our Seafront group who've spoken to us today have been involved in the development of your specific proposal. There can be no doubt that there is strong opposition in the town to the changes. I take that very seriously, and I intend to engage fully with people in Clevedon regarding the next steps. I'm a new councillor to this council, I'm a resident of Clevedon, and I'm new to this administration, and I'm very concerned at the impact that this matter has had within my town, a town in which you do not live, I understand. As well as strong opposition, this has been a very divisive issue, which leaves many, many people feeling angry and others unable to have their say for fear of being attacked on social media. There are many shades of opinion within the town on the specifics of what should happen next and at what potential cost. Some heard today and others not. The motion before us puts only one suggested proposal, and that's one reason I don't believe that it can be agreed. I've already received concerns from residents on your specific published proposal that adopting this would mean that cyclists would not be able to travel south along the beach at all, unless on the pavement, of course. And that also will make it more difficult for cyclists to use local businesses who've already expressed their concerns about trade. You've also asked for the changes to be made forthwith, although local businesses have previously been very concerned about works taking place during a busy summer period that may also have an impact on their trade. I think it would be appropriate at least to ask for their opinion on that matter. Your proposal appears completely out of kilter with your own party's national active travel policy. I do believe there is a need for immediate practical review, which is not just limited to the process and procedures, to determine how we can move forward together constructively on this matter. I will oppose the motion because the new partnership administration is committed to that review, and it tends that this will include an independent design review with options for further investment. We're committed that there will be real engagement with the public and relevant councillors in Clevedon, as well as technical review. A specification is already being developed with the intention of commencing the review in June. I and my fellow executive members have met with some of the stakeholders. We have many more to meet with, of course, and heard the requests for public engagement via a meeting or potentially meetings, and I personally am committed to including this within the engagement process. In addition, we know that Active Travel England have committed to review the scheme for compliance, and this was the outcome of the engagement of local MPs with the Department for Transport and requested by them and by the community, and this is currently being arranged. Independent engineers will also review the safety of the scheme. A member of the public speaking this evening requested the timescale for this, and it is currently being arranged. An internal audit of the methodology bringing the scheme forward and implementing it, including the process, consultation and decision making, will also take place, and this process will be starting immediately, and I will be taking a very close keeping a very close eye on that process. So I would urge others who are genuinely concerned by this issue and want to involve the community in the next stages of this process to vote against this motion and enable us to move forward in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Cropford-Hawley wanted to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I reckon the Tories have done a cracking good job. And I congratulate you, because after 4 years of inaction and abstention, you're now actually participating in argument. So this is the stuff of democracy. Bring it on. The more we can discuss these things robustly in chamber, the better. We do need to engage in robust cross-party conversation. It is required of coexistence, and that's what we're here to do. We are coexisting. And the first foray into our coexistence in this council is, of course, Clevedon Seafront, where challenge is to be welcomed. I'm not sure that your motion has been particularly well worded, and I would find it very difficult to support. But with time, you'll gain experience and you'll be able to word things such that you will convince the whole chamber to offer our support. Hopefully in the coming weeks, Madam Chairman, we'll settle down to working out what's worthy of retention and what might or will need to be altered. But I think, if I may, this specific issue actually exposes a pit of dissatisfaction which is much deeper than car parking or cycleways. It's a hole into which I'm afraid Ted Heath led us, your former Prime Minister, in 1976, when he and the Whitehall Mandarins tired of truly local government and handed decision-making to distant district governance, since when all parties and councils have become besotted with uniformity and conformity, where the ability of local people to make local decisions, for better or worse, has been wrested from local hands, where sometimes idiosyncratic local character and style has been sacrificed on the altar of corporate design, drowned in meaningless jargon invented by metropolitan lovies, and justified by something called the economy of scale and unique selling points. We need to belong to places which evolve over time and which emotions and allegiances can accommodate without any sense of being overwhelmed by the greed of corporate imposition, slippery Westminster speak, and government over-regulation. It's this dissatisfaction with local government that's given rise to Portishead independence and to Clevedon anger, and which is partially responsible for the appalling low turnout at elections. Not one person here can stand up and say, I've been elected by the majority of people in my ward. You have not. That which can be determined locally, Chairman, should be determined locally for better or for worse, and the full consequences of so doing should be placed firmly on local shoulders. And I look forward to this, as well as the issue of Clevedon, being debated as and when the leader has arranged for this to take place across the parties in North Somerset. Carry on with your complaining. That's what you're here for.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Cartman, then you're next?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, is that the right thing? I'm very open to supporting a Conservative motion on this, but I can't support this one, sadly. And I would really and ask that you withdraw it and bring another one back. And I would be more than happy to practically consider that and work cross-party to bring something that works for the people of Clevedon. I'm not sure this one does that properly. I think there's three main kind of criticisms I would bring to this. I would say that you are assuming you have a mandate to do what you decide the people of Clevedon want. But as one of the speakers earlier very eloquently says, don't just think you know what we want. And I think the only way that we're going to decide what the people of Clevedon want, and actually residents across North Somerset want, is by asking them through a process of consultation and engagement. I think also in terms of the motion itself, it is uncosted and has an open-ended commitment. And I think we all know local authorities do not have a bottomless pit of money, and I'd worry that we'd be making commitments we can no longer afford. I'm also concerned that there is a general kind of sense in the comments so far that we should just put things back as they were, and that may well be what people want, but my sense is that's not what the majority of people in Clevedon want. They want a lot of it changed, I would agree with that, but there are good things in it too, and we need to again have an open and robust process for identifying what those are so we can move forward and not backwards. So in summary, I support the proposal that we have an independent review with public consultation and establish practical and affordable changes that have widespread support. Now, this motion doesn't do that, and that's why I would ask that you'd withdraw it and bring another one back. My worry is this is not a motion for Clevedon, it's a motion for the Conservative Party and building narrow political advantage. Now, that would be rather sad when you've got a council here that are nearly unanimous on their desire to see positive changes in Clevedon, and I would ask to bring something else forward that we can work on together at a later stage to give you the assurances perhaps that we all need. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bell.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to say three things. So the first one is going to be really easy, and that is everything that Councillor Young said. So really great opening to this debate, and I completely endorse everything that you said, Hannah. Second thing I want to say is actually I'd like to say sorry to residents in Clevedon and businesses in Clevedon that we've ended up in this situation, because I can assure you that nobody started this journey with the intention of upsetting people, alienating the community and making things worse. So I do want to apologise that that's where we've ended up. And I hope that you've taken away from this discussion a real commitment to try and engage again and listen and try and do things differently. And that's not just about the Clevedon scheme, but it is also about the entire way that we approach community engagement and involvement, and how we make sure that we work with the community and not against them. And the third thing I wanted to just say, and it's directly related to that point, is there were a few remarks in the public participation which were directed at individual officers of the council. And I just want to say we've got incredibly good professional officers of the council. That's not to say that they always get things right, or that as elected members we always agree with them, but the people responsible for the policy decisions of this council are the councillors. They are the people in this chamber, and if anyone in the community and anyone in this council is unhappy about the decisions that are made, it is the elected members that must be held to account. Don't blame officers who are trying to do their job to the best of their ability. So we're the guys that should carry the can, and I would encourage everybody to remember that, respect the paid professionals, and hold the politicians to account for the policy decisions that are made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. Could I ask Councillor Ellis now?
Thank you, Chair. Just going to our gentleman's point over his head, nobody scored over 50% and got a mandate. That's not true. One Conservative here did get over 50%, and part of my mandate was talking about Clevedon Seafront. Going on to that, if we look at who's talked so far, wasn't it the Coalition last time that didn't listen and did this project, and now they're talking about other people not listening? Seems like we spent £700,000 to get the Coalition to listen to what the people are wanting. Just one way of looking at it, that's all. And it's not only confined to Clevedon. I represent Nailsea West End. When I brought the seafront up on the door, I was met by a range of laughter, utter bemusement, to pure anger at what they've done to the seafront. A cyclist said to me, "I won't use the cycle lane, it's dangerous." And it's thanks to 3 Clevedon Conservatives who did get voted in. We've got this motion on the agenda tonight and we're discussing it. So when we look at people who listen and don't listen, I'd suggest Conservatives have listened. We've got this on the agenda, so we're debating it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Charles?
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Crockford-Hawley for the endorsement of Portishead Independence. Thank you. I find it... No, but, you know, independence in Portishead. Thanks, Peter. I find this, let's be honest about this motion, this isn't a motion about Clevedon Seafront, this is a stunt. And I know this was a stunt when they asked for a recorded vote. Because what they want to do is instantly put out literature going, oh, these councillors voted against it, which must mean that they hate everybody in Clevedon and want to keep the seafront as it is, which isn't true. As someone who professionally works advising people nationally on community engagement and consultation, I'd like to ask where in your motion is the reference of procedures for people who support some form of alterations to Clevedon Seafront, and where is the idea of having any consultation that enables people to safely give their views? One of the people actually talked about a thing on a Clevedon community forum on Facebook today. I looked at that as well, and I was stunned by the amount of people who praised the person who put it in favour of Clevedon Seafront changes for his courage in actually putting that on a Facebook page, because of the numerous attacks people had, including their addresses being given on public forums by people. Proper consultation and engagement is about creating safe spaces that all voices are listened. Councillors proposing this, yes, you have a mandate of people who feel one side of an argument. Good community engagement involves creating safe environments that all sides feel comfortable in actually expressing their views. Mike and I aren't great fans of each other, but what I would say is that he has taken on the responsibility for community engagement and consultation himself. He has taken the brave thing, and they say politicians never admit mistakes. Mike has. So give the man a break, give this new executive a break, and let them get to work on sorting it out. Trust me, if they don't do it speedily and quickly, I'll be one of the people pulling them up on it, not just you guys over there.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Burden then?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Young made a point, newly appointed exec member. Don't wish to be rude, but I think you read your officer's brief exceptionally well. Having listened to it, I picked up on Councillor Crockford-Hawley's points and Mike Bell's. I think the new councillors behind us decided to put a resolution to council. The first thing they did after the briefing was to go and seek legal advice as to how to do it, because they'd been elected. Bluntly, I think they need congratulating. I'll take on board also the point that perhaps things could have been done slightly differently. Perhaps the wording could be different. But I think the public here have proved that Clevedon has got a severe problem. Consultation has broken down, and the previous administration, to put it mildly, made a balls up of this one. I think rather than vote against this motion, I think it would be sensible if Mike, as leader, gave an assurance that this will not be cast under the long grass, because I think the people of Clevedon probably think it might, after the battles that have been going on. I'll take him as an honest man with his word. I've known him a long time. If we had that type of assurance that this is going to be brought forward, there will be consultation with people in Clevedon, and a new scheme will be considered openly. without trying to protect people's backsides who made the mistakes in the past, I personally would support that.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Bridger, I think you're next.
Excuse me. Thank you, Chair. I'll be as brief as I can, but I will be direct, because obviously I've got some skin in the game in this one, and at times it's felt like I would actually be skinned. Yes to a review. There was always going to be a review, but the motion demands a wholesale reversal of some core elements of the scheme. So, obviously, as others have said, not only would that need to be funded from somewhere, I think would also have wider consequences. For a start, I think if we were to significantly backpedal, if I can use that phrase, on the scheme, no doubt DfT would want to recover some of their active travel funding from us, and I think it would probably compromise future bids, and not just in this area, but in other areas of where we'd be seeking government funding. I think, in my view, the members bringing this motion are engaging in some special pleading to their constituency, who frankly are often applying different standards to the seafront as they would do to other parts of Clevedon. And I heard that for myself when I attended a meeting of Clevedon Town Council in March. They were talking about parking, driver behaviour in the town centre, and they're not applying the same logic to the seafront. So I think we need to separate out the rage about the scheme as a whole that some people, frankly, we will never convince feel about the scheme, from the very legitimate grievances raised by residents and some businesses, and we've heard some of those this evening, like the gentleman from who has the pottery business. Those do need addressing. We've, I think, through the last year, 18 months, have been addressing some issues. Clearly, there's a long way to go, and we need some parking enforcement, don't we? Addressing the issues that one of the speakers earlier mentioned. I think, though, I wanted to say I feel this really strongly, not just for this scheme, but more broadly. We need to decouple business performance from the car. Okay, now Tiffin and other businesses on the seafront always seem very busy to me when I visit Clevedon seafront. Cars don't spend money, people do. Okay, there are often other things at play if a business is not going so well. I'm not going to seek to preach to the business owners who are in the room this evening, but there are other things at play: customer service, your reputation as an employer, the cost of living, perhaps. I mean, no one raises the cost of living as potentially an issue affecting businesses, not just in Cleveland but elsewhere at the moment. We do need to look at options for better using our public spaces, and we've obviously got ambitions in terms of public transport. We need to look at active travel combined with public transport, so that it's more inclusive and give a real choice to residents. The tricky part for us is that we can't deliver everything at once. Things might be aligned, but in terms of delivery, they're not always in sequence, and that can cause issues, particularly if we're not communicating as well as we should be. This council should not make policy by Facebook. I think that's really important. I actually sense people are now saying, actually, the council haven't got everything right. we know that. But please don't go back to what it was like before. I think that's really, really important. We need, I think, more time to hear the new story of the seafront, how it's being used today to better inform a review. Clearly, there are some lessons to be learned. Make no bones about that. Clearly, no one group should feel they don't matter when changes of this nature are being brought forward. That's really important, and clearly we haven't got that right. We need to balance, though, I think, the ability of anyone to get within meters of where they want to get to in a car with the needs of other people to enjoy that environment as well. That needs to be said. No one needs to tell me that the implementation of the scheme hasn't gone well. Okay, that's an understatement. It's self-evident, and we don't need to go there. We do, as a council, I think, need to be much more transparent about the pipeline of projects that we want to fund. We do need to be genuinely led by community priorities, and we do need to scrutinise those priorities in detail, and we need to get much better at that. I think, to sum up, Chair, I think there's a fine line between courage and recklessness. Let's by all means have a review, and I think we can broaden the scope of that review. It goes way beyond an additional safety audit. We can look at the scope of that, but I firmly believe right now we should be discounting any prospect of going back to how the beach was before. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Shopland? Councillor Shopland, are you?
This is not a political party crusade. It happens that we have two new councillors who were commissioned by their residents to take action on a particular subject, and that is what they've done. Whether they did it at the right time or the wrong time matters not. They have done what their residents asked them, and there is no party political issue in this. As the previous chairman of Clevedon Town Council, I was asked on several occasions to hold a public meeting. I was also asked to hold a public poll. And I would advise legally that as we were right up against the election and I was a candidate, that it was not advisable for me to do it. That's why it never took place. Clevedon has never as yet had its chance to express its opinion. The consultation in COVID, and I understand restrictions, was never a full consultation of the whole of the public of Clevedon with public meetings to meet. Clevedon is very concerned about this matter. We had a unique seafront, a Georgian seafront, a Victorian seafront. I have to be careful what I say now, but there was nothing quite like it anywhere else in the world. And it's been ruined, quite frankly, from that perspective. People came from all over the world to see that seafront, and by the actions of a few misguided, I'll be polite tonight, misguided people, a scheme was carried through to alter it against the wishes of the town, the people of the town. We had a workable traffic system in the upper part of the town, which evolved over, I won't say centuries, but over many years. It worked. Now we have a new system which, quite frankly, is in disarray. Talk to the people on Hill Road. You've had a gentleman from Copse Road. Listen to what the people say. It doesn't work. I support the motion because I feel that this is the only way to get it before this council. Its wording may not be entirely correct, so what? But it's got the attention of the council, and this council has to do something about it. I would like to go back to the seafront as it was. But many years ago, I stood for Parliament, and several young ladies from a top magazine came to interview me in my office. And when they left, looking a bit shell-shocked, I said, "You are the most fortunate young ladies in the history of the world." And they said, "Why?" Well, I said, "You've interviewed the dinosaur in his den and got away with it." Perhaps I'm old-fashioned, but I remember Clevedon as it was. There is great concern. Please, put the seafront right, and then in the nicest possible way, go away and leave us to ourselves, all right? Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Porter next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I didn't intend to say anything on this. I don't think that the motion is a viable one, I must admit. And it wasn't a party political one that's coming through here. And I was quite happy when I heard what the new exec member for Highways and the new leader of the council said. Now, if we can take them on their word, I think there has been a disaster in what was done with this. You know, I've been up to Clevedon and seen it myself, just out of interest. When I saw it on the television, I thought you had to take a ride round and look. And we can hear from the people here, something definitely needs to be done. I'm not saying it needs to go back to what it was before. I was a bit disappointed with some of the discussion that's been going on with implications that aren't necessary there. But my only concern came is when the speaker before the last one was trying to make excuses for why it had gone wrong and trying to weaken down, I think, the need for change. Now, I think, you know, it's quite clear that the residents here have had a real problem with it. It has to be resolved. I think it was an embarrassment for all the council, whether you were part of the administration or not. I had a lot of people criticise the council for what had been done there. I think we need to put it right. And I was listening to what the new exec member and the leader of the council said. If they're prepared to go and give a commitment that the people of Clevedon are going to get a resolution that's proper, I don't think it necessarily has to go back to as before, because I don't know, you know, that's the right move. But I don't want it weakened down by all the implications that those that implemented it last time don't want it to go against what they've done. You know, I think there was a mistake. I think everyone has to acknowledge there was a mistake with it. It needs to be put right. And if we have the word of the leader of the council and the exec member that they're going to do that, I'm prepared to accept that. But I don't want to see it weakened down. Thank you.
Thank you. We are having a number of members speaking about this, and we're beginning to be in the stage where things are being repeated and endorsed. So if you're saying something different, please do, but perhaps not repeat what's already been said. I have 4 more speakers. Councillor Bell.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to repeat myself because that's what I've been asked to do. Just for absolute clarity, the commitment that Councillor Young spoke to at the very beginning of the debate, what feels like a long time ago, is that we will have a full and independent review. That's not just the routine things that would have happened on every scheme that we ever do. We're talking about a proper independent evaluation of the scheme, lessons learned, a consultation and engagement. You've heard the commitment from Councillor Young and myself. We'll go to Clevedon, we'll have a public meeting, and we will listen to the views of residents and businesses. And then we will all together, as a council, reflect on the feedback that we've had and determine the changes. I can't give you any more of a commitment than that at this point. And frankly, it would be irresponsible of us to do anything other than that, wouldn't it? Because we've heard different views and different voices already in this debate. And to make commitments that incur spending or decisions which we don't know whether they're right or achievable at this point would be an irresponsible thing to do. So I hope that Conservative members will reflect on the spirit of the debate in the main and withdraw their motion, and let's commit to the review, let's make that work, and then deliver the changes that are required.
Thank you. Councillor Pryke, given the assurances that you've had from the leader and the executive member, do you wish to accept the assurances that they will have a review and of the seafront and move with consultation, as Councillor Bell has suggested?
Yes, and I thank Councillor Bell for the work that he has already said that he is doing and those assurances. Having just had a discussion with Councillor Smith, we would be happy to withdraw in light of that assurance.
Thank you. And so thank you for that, and thank you to everybody who's spoken, and thank you. His assurances. Thank you. Is that done? Matters referred from previous meeting, none. Election for the leader of the council for this 4-year term. Do I have nominations?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
I'll tell you in a minute.
Right. Yes, it's an interesting one for me, but I would like to nominate Councillor Mike Bell for Leader of the Council. I know that in the discussions we've had since the election to form this partnership together, that I believe we can be assured he will definitely be first among equals. We are a group of equal partners. And as we've been talking so much this evening about listening, I believe that we will listen to each other as independent groups working together, having robust discussion about all sorts of things as we've had this evening. And we are committed to listening to the people, not just of Clevedon, but of North Somerset. So I promised I wouldn't make a long speech. We've had a long evening already, so I will leave it at that. And that is my nomination.
Do you have a seconder? Or do we have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Clearly carried. Thank you very much. Turning it off. I think political balance and leaders and deputy leaders of the groups for this municipal year. Over to the solicitor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So, political balance, I've received notice of 6 political groups being formed on the council. And so the groups and the political balance is as follows. Conservative Party and Independents Group, 15 members. Liberal Democrats and Independents, 12 members. Labour Group, 10 members. Green Group, 7. Portishead Independents, 4. And an independent group alone, 2.
Thank you. And I think the agenda item is for noting, not for voting on it.
That's correct.
Just
you have
noting.
to accept the political balance. In terms of the group leaders, the Conservative Party and Independents Group, the leader will be Councillor Ashton and Councillor Bryant, the deputy. The Liberal Democrats and Independents, leader is Councillor Bell, with the deputy is Councillor Gemma Coles. Labour Group is Catherine Gibbons and Councillor Hannah Young. Green Group is Councillor Bridget Petty and Stuart McQuillan. Portishead Independent is Councillor Roger Whitford and the deputy is Councillor Nicola Holland. And the Independent Group, leader is Councillor Bridger and deputy is Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, and all for noting. Thank you. Chairperson's announcement, that's me. I'd like to echo what our former chairperson said. I'd like to record a thank you for the past 4 years, for all the members and officers who worked for the past 4 years through a time which changed so much and actually changed how we work and communicate as a council. Welcome to new and returning members. I've been called a few things already. Just to clarify it, please call me Madam Chairman in formal settings as this. Otherwise, I'm just Wendy. My role is to promote events and activities in North Somerset, for North Somerset, to raise the profile of North Somerset. So if you have any event, charitable or otherwise, where you think my attendance would help raise the profile, bring more people in, perhaps not, please let me know, send me an email, and if I can attend, I certainly will do so. That is, as I see it, my role. I might even wear this, but it's a bit heavy. So thank you very much for that. And moving on, leaders' announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I haven't got any announcements, but I did just want to take a moment to pay tribute and thank the 2 former leaders of the council from the previous administration, Councillor Davis, or former Councillor Davis and Councillor Bridger. I'm of course about to embark on the journey of leading the council, which is a great honour, of course, but also a responsibility. And I think we should all recognise the enormous burdens, particularly in the past 4 years when we had the COVID pandemic and significant financial pressures and the cost of living crisis, that council leaders and all those in positions of responsibility on the council take upon them. So I would just like to put on record our thanks to former Councillor Davis and Councillor Bridger. But also, I would ask all group leaders to make sure that they pass on the council's thanks to all the retiring members as well, because I think there's always that moment, isn't there, when it all stops, doesn't it? And one day you're a councillor and you're busy and you're doing all kinds of things, and then you're suddenly not. And I think it is right and proper that those that lost their seats or chose not to stand for re-election are acknowledged and thanked by the council. So please, group leaders, do, on our behalf, pass on our thanks and gratitude for their years of service.
Thank you. And obviously we all echo that Councillor Bell has said. Chief Executive's announcements?
Just to echo that, thanks on behalf of officers to all members who stood down or didn't return, and reiterate my welcome on behalf of officers to all new elected members and returning members.
Thank you. Item 15, the Council's Constitution. Our solicitor will introduce the item.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So the Constitution was updated last year following recommendations from myself and the Audit Committee. It's available on the website and on the Members' Resources page. The only changes I am aware of are that 2 of the policy scrutiny panels, formerly PLACE and PCOM, Partnerships in Corporate Organisation, are being replaced by a placemaking in economy policy and scrutiny panel with remit for regeneration, planning and those sorts of matters, and a transport, climate and communities panel with remit for external partnerships, corporate organisation, climate, emergency, etc. Those remits will be posted on the website in full and have been distributed to group leaders. So with those 2 replacement panels, I commend the Constitution for your approval.
Anybody like to move approval? Councillor Bell. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Gibbons. All those in favour? Thank you. Constitutional appointments. I think I'm calling along our leader to address this one.
Thank you again, Madam Chairman. So I just want to announce and confirm formally the appointments to the executive. And this time, just in recognition that we've got lots of new members of the council, when I confirm each appointment, it would be great if the new exec member, portfolio holder, would just stand and introduce themselves. And if you want to say anything else, go for it, but don't build your part too much because we've been here quite a long time already. So the very first, I'm very pleased to confirm that the Deputy Leader of Council and Executive Member for Children's Services, Families and Lifelong Learning will be Catherine Gibbons.
Thank you very much. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Labour Councillor for Milton Ward in Weston-super-Mare with my colleague here, Councillor Tucker. And obviously, those of you who do know me will know that I've been the Executive Member for Children's Services, Lifelong Learning, Skills and also Ukrainian resettlement for the last 4 years. And I think we've achieved a lot in the past 4 years. We've got a lot more work to do, and I look forward to doing that with the wonderful team of officers and people we have in North Somerset. I won't talk too long because I've been told not to. I think the other thing that I want to say, when I was campaigning with my colleague and other members of our party, the thing that came across, and we've heard it again and again tonight, is about being listening people. You know, when we were out on the doorstep, the temptation was just to go around and ask people how they plan to vote and tick our boxes and say, oh, I've got so many promises. But the real value of the election experience for me was those really good detailed conversations that I had with residents about what they wanted from us, and also hearing sadly how many people didn't actually want to vote because they didn't see the point. And I just think that if we have good debates and we listen to each other and we listen to our residents and they feel that we're taking notice of them, perhaps we'll have a little bit more of a vibrant democracy in North Somerset. And I'm very much committed to that, especially through working with young people to get them to understand what a privilege it is to be able to vote, what a privilege it is to have a voice in your community and hopefully change things. I won't go on anymore, but I'm very grateful for this opportunity to do what I can for local people and for those people who voted for us as a party and for those people who voted full stop in North Somerset and for those who didn't. Next time round, I hope we'll convince them that is worth getting involved because we're on their side. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And I feel like it feels like we're back in the Eurovision Song Contest, so I'll ask for the points at the end as well. Next on the list, I've got the Executive Member for Climate, Waste and Sustainability, which is Councillor Annemieke Waite.
Good evening, everybody. Right, I am a brand new councillor, never having done anything like this before, and I would very much like to agree with what Catherine has just said. I'm very much a listening person, and I've walked many, many, many miles to get elected, and I'm convinced that the conversations that I've had on the doorstep are the thing that have got me here. I'm very excited about my new role, and I'm not going to bore you very much with anything much, because I know that we're going to be under some time pressure, but I'm very excited about the next 4 years, and I very much look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annamika. And next, I'm going to go to the new Executive Member for Adult Services and Stronger Communities, which is Councillor Roger Whitfield.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm the councillor who was elected for Portishead East Ward for Portishead Independence, and I'm very much looking forward to working in partnership with everybody in this council to improve things not just for Portishead but across the whole of North Somerset. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Roger. We've had a few new faces there, so I'm going to go to some more experienced voices in the executive team. Who do you think it's going to be? Any guesses? No, I'm going to ask Executive Member for Spatial Planning, Placemaking and Economy, Mark Caniford, especially as he's just writing it as...
Thank you. I just want to get through it quickly because the evening's going to drag on. Many of you will know me, and for the new members, Councillor Mark Caniford, Hillside Councillor and Weston-super-Mayor. Really, there's one thing I think I would like to say I have been trying to achieve over the last 4 years, and I will continue to try and do over the next, is keep driving our area forward, our district. I would like to have give an open invitation to any member who wants me to come to their town centres, look at the issues, try and help indeed with placemaking. That invitation is there. But also the opportunity to encourage and draw sustainable inward investment into North Somerset, because with that effort in mind, we can improve the lives of many residents here.
Thank you very much, Mark. And next, the Executive Member for Safety in the Community, Councillor James Clayton.
Thank you, Leader. For those of you that don't know me, my name is James Clayton and I represent South Ward in Weston. I work on the ground, basically on the front line. I've done various roles, whether it's community environment officer, community warden, and I currently work as a street warden in the town centre. So I'm very much customer focused on the ground, and my portfolio is going to cross over into many other portfolios, whether it's youth services, adult services or highways. So I'm looking forward to working with other executive members and ensuring that our communities in North Somerset are a safer place for all. So thank you.
Thank you, James. Good stuff. And next, the Executive Member for Culture and Leisure, Councillor Mike Solomon.
Thank you very much. I hope you don't mind. I'm going to look at my 47 pages of notes on my phone.
No.
I've been on the council now. This is my second term, so this is my second 4 years. I'm enjoying it. I was on the exec before, I'm back. I'm very excited about my new post. And again, as with Councillor Caniford, anybody that has ideas for events as part of my portfolio, please come to me and give me your ideas. So I'm excited about the future for this administration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. And next up, we've got the Executive Member for Homes and Health, Councillor Jenna Ho-Maris.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Madam Chairman, councillors and officers. So I'm the Green Party councillor for Pill Ward, taking over from former councillor John Davis, who stepped down after an exemplary 3 years. I'm a scientist by training, and then I became a lawyer. And the last 10 years, I've been running a charity in a fishing village. What I want to say is I moved to North Somerset fairly recently, and the reason that I'm here is because of your initiative, which is Sea Monster. I was a volunteer for the whole time, 2 months. And as one of the 500,000 visitors to see Sea Monster, I came away inspired and energised by the massive challenges ahead of us and also local people's incredibly positive response. Councillors and officers, progress can seem slow, but the things we do make a positive difference, and sometimes in ways we can't predict. So my portfolio is homes and health, including equalities and diversity. I want to thank Councillor Bell and Petty and officers who've laid the groundwork in these two roles. And councillors and officers, we are all in this together, and I look forward to working with you all in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenna. And last but not least, the Executive Member for Highways and Transport, Councillor Hannah Young.
Thank you, Councillor Bell. I'm really delighted to be here. My name is Hannah Young, as you've heard. I'm the Labour Councillor for Clevedon South Ward. We've talked quite a lot about some of the issues I'm going to be addressing over the coming months. When people heard that I had the Highways and Transport portfolio, a number have said to me that sounds like a bit of a poison chalice. What I would say is it's clearly a massive opportunity to make a difference to something which makes an absolute difference to people day to day in every community. And I know that because of the number of you who have already found my details, my email address, and contacted me to invite me to come and see your potholes, your roads, your parking. All I would ask is please do bear with me. I will come out. I do very much wish to see all corners of North Somerset, as well as take some time, of course, in my own ward, because there are some very pressing issues there. I will certainly work across cross-party to do that, but I do need to get my diary in order first. So please do bear with me. Thank you.
I'll keep going, shall I? Yeah,
keep going, please.
Thank you. So thank you very much to all the colleagues. I'm really excited by the executive team that we've got to take us forward in this new partnership administration. We've got a really strong blend of experience and newly elected members with fresh ideas, real diversity in terms of the different communities that they represent across North Somerset, and also in terms of their backgrounds, as you've heard, and their skills and interests. And I would just like to emphasise something that I said earlier in the context of the Clevedon debate. You know, elected members, and I guess this is a message through Joe to officers too, elected members run the council. It is our responsibility to set the policy direction and offer strategic leadership to the council. We've all heard, I'm sure, complaints from our colleagues and from members of the public that too often the perception is that it is officers that run the show and that they really make the decisions and that we're not involved. I want that to be absolutely reversed in the coming few years. We've got to make sure that we are setting the clear direction for this council. If we don't like something, bring it to this council chamber and let's have a debate and an open discussion about it and find a way forward. And if you've got any issues at all, come to the executive members, come to the chairs of scrutiny panels, and make sure that we challenge and scrutinise things appropriately. And if things are not working, then we need to work to resolve them. So let's not be frustrated on the backbenches. Let's not feel as though we're not being listened to. It is our responsibility together to make things happen and deliver for the community. And that is irrespective of party groups or any of the rest of it. There's been all sorts of shenanigans, have there not, over the last couple of weeks since the elections. But the bottom line is we are now here as a united North Somerset Council to try and deliver for the communities that elected us. So let's try and make sure that that happens. In that vein, I'd like to confirm the appointments to the chairmanships of some of the key policy and scrutiny panels. This is where I'm regretting that I didn't put my glasses on. So I'm just going to run through the list of chairs, and for any committees where a chair is not named, then it will be up to the committee to make the appointment at their first meeting, and for all committees we're assuming that the vice chairs will be elected at the first meeting. So I think this list has been circulated to group leaders, but just to confirm, Adult Services and Housing Policy and Scrutiny Panel will be chaired by Councillor Dan Thomas, Children and Young People Services by Councillor Joe Tristram, Health Overview and Scrutiny by Councillor Helen Thornton, Transport, Climate and Communities by Councillor Steve Bridger, Placemaking and Economy by Councillor John Crawford-Hawley, the Audit Committee by Councillor Patrick Keating, the Licensing Committee by Councillor Stuart Davis, Planning and Regulatory Committee by Councillor Hugh Mallion, Public Rights of Way Subcommittee by Councillor Tim Snaden, Joint Safety and Consultative Committee by Councillor Richard Tucker, and the Employment Committee by Councillor Kieran Connolly.
Thank you, Leader, for that. I think we can move on to the next item on the agenda. Municipal calendar. Solicitor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So the municipal calendar is amongst your papers. The only changes, obviously, we've heard tonight are 2 changes to the panels. So we are suggesting that the place dates that are in the calendar are taken by the Placemaking and Economy panel, and those dates that were in there for the PCOM panel are taken by the Transport, Climate and Communities panel. Subject to those name changes against those dates, the municipal calendar is there for your adoption, please.
Do I have a proposer to adopt it? Thank you, it's the Leader. And a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Back to you, Councillor Bell. Back to you, Mike.
Are we on appointments to outside?
We are indeed.
Good. I haven't lost the plot yet then, good. Okay, so hopefully this is the council appointments to outside bodies. So there was an updated list that was circulated to everyone earlier today and has been published through the Modern Gov app. Unless there are any amendments from the floor or alterations, I propose that we adopt those recommendations.
Chairman, can I raise a point on the appointment to outside bodies? It's quite a technical one. I've raised it on a 4-yearly basis for about 20 years, and it still hasn't happened, and it really does cause problems to an outside body which this council has a significant input into, and its members are there by political balance. That is the Joint Internal Drainage Board. It really does strike me as farcical that that particular board, when the council goes into an election, loses its membership, it then can do nothing until there is an executive meeting to appoint members on political balance. Surely that could move to a council appointment for the first council meeting in the council year.
Thank you.
I've asked for this in the past, and there seems to be some very detailed technical reason why not, but I live in hope common sense will prevail.
I think I'll pass that over to the solicitor to consider in due course.
I'm afraid common sense won't prevail. The law will.
At least I've got an answer, Chairman.
These appointments are by council. Council and executive cannot exchange their functions. They are set in law as to which are which. What I can do is to look at whether we can continue the terms of office until the first meeting of the executive.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss one? Please speak.
Madam Chairman, on the first item, Avon Fire Authority, we have a councillor who would like to take the Conservative post, and that's Councillor Martin Williams.
That's fine, thank you. Presumably, he's willing to do so.
I've got one more.
Okay.
That's towards the back page. The corporate parenting panel, known as the Children's Champions. Councillor Mark Applin. Okay.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much. What's that?
Is that just an additional one for the corporate parenting panel? Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Gibbons.
I just wanted to say on the corporate parenting panel that I will be sending out an email to group leaders to ask for their nominations. I wanted to give a little bit of time in view of the fact that we have new councillors to give them a chance to attend the corporate parenting training and briefing so they fully understand what it's all about. And then, yeah, absolutely, we'll look forward to those nominations. Thank you.
Can I be really sort of take over, Catherine, and say that everyone here is a corporate parent.
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's mandatory training, so I'm just waiting for people to have that and really understand what it's all about.
All our new councillors, please take, you are our corporate parents. Thank you very much. Are we okay on that then? Thank you. Turning it off. Forward plan, Leader? Move to approval? Noted. Policy and Scrutiny Panel reports, there are none at the moment. Corporate Parenting Report, none at the moment. There will be. Question time. For new councillors, this is question time. This is where you ask a question and you say which executive member you wish to direct your question to. It's not an occasion for bringing forward to the full council a narrative about individual residents' concerns in your ward. It's about bringing forward an issue for your ward generally or an issue for North Somerset Council. So bearing that in mind, I think we now have a little list. My colleagues here have written a little list. So over to Councillor Keating first.
Thank you. Question for Councillor Young, please. A lot on your plate coming ahead, but one of the initiatives that was introduced under the last administration was the online highways improvement request tool that allowed ward councillors to make a submission using an online platform. I think what I'd seek from you is a commitment in future council meetings or on a regular basis to provide us with an update on progress against those requests. I think the council officers have some quite useful business information tools that could lead us to whether it's a dashboard or some sort of RAG rating. But I think at the moment we put requests into that system, it feels a bit of an echoing void. So if there was some feedback and progress tracking on those requests, that would be really useful to help us keep our residents up to date with how those requests are proceeding.
Thank you. Brief and to the point. Thank you very much. Councillor... Oh, I'm sorry.
A question requires an answer.
Perhaps carry on that way, I don't mind.
Perhaps I thought you'd said it enough.
We're just a listening council these days. We don't actually give any responses.
I was saving you a reply.
Thank you. And all I will say is you'll appreciate as a new member of the executive, I have a lot to catch up on. It seems eminently sensible, and we have had some discussion already about the issues around making sure that we have performance information. So yes, I will certainly take that away and have a look at it and seek to see what we can do to bring that back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sorry to cut you off. Councillor Charles?
Thank you. I'd like to thank Councillor Bell, who is, this is who my question is directed to, for the support he's already given to the people of Portishead, who some of you may be unaware have actually, for North Somerset's second largest town, have no post office to serve 30,000 people. And I know Councillor Bell has already dedicated to write to the relevant post office authorities about this. He's added his name to the petition of residents that's nearly 2,000 strong now regarding this. And I ask that in the months ahead that he uses all resources available to North Somerset Council to ensure that Portishead, the second largest town in North Somerset, actually gets a service which is essential to older residents in particular and small businesses in actually having a post office. Thank you.
Over to you, Councillor Bell. I've remembered this time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I applaud Councillor Charles's commitment and campaigning on this issue, and those of other ward members in Portishead and the Town Council as well. It's just not good enough, is it, that the post office has been allowed to close? I know that these things are out of the post office's hands, but what is not out of their hands is coming up with a solution. They haven't had a lot of interest from local businesses, but that's not the only way to do it. There are examples from around the country where public bodies, where major supermarkets have got involved in hosting post offices, and I will absolutely commit to doing everything that I can to support the continuing campaign and to get the post office back in Portishead.
Thank you. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Chairman. This is for Councillor Hannah Young. The Western Central Livable Neighbourhood Scheme was extensively consulted on and received very positive feedback from the community. The government money which was secured to pay for it was originally supposed to be spent in the last financial year, but the scheme seems to be continually delayed and we still have no timescale for its delivery. Residents' expectations were raised as a result of the consultation that the improvements would be delivered, but they have seen nothing since the consultation. So could you ensure me and other residents of Central Western of the Council's commitment to the implementation of the scheme and give me a date when we might see some progress?
Thank you, Councillor Payne, and thank you for notifying me of your question in advance, which is extremely helpful. I am pleased to say that I can assure you of the commitment to the scheme. I am informed that it's due to take place in the summer, in July or early August, and because of the long delay in recent consultation with the residents, it's proposed that the final scheme will be shared with local members in June or early July prior to implementation, and there will be communications with the community to make sure that they're aware of what's coming. I'm very happy to talk further about it if necessary.
Thank you. And that reminds me to say to all of you, if you have a question and you pose a question, could you please give a copy to the solicitor? Is it you? To the solicitor here for the minutes. So please give a copy to the solicitor. Councillor Crockford-Hawley?
Question for the leader. I'm concerned about a very large organ in Weston-super-Mare. As many will know, it's housed in the Odeon Cinema. It blew to its 16-foot magnificence on Sunday, and a large audience both appreciated and listened to its performance. For those who don't know, it's one of only 2 cinema organs left working in an English cinema. The other one is the Odeon Leicester Square. This is in perfect working order. It rises from the pit, the jelly moulds work. It is magnificent, and it's been wonderfully maintained by volunteers. Unfortunately, the Odeon Cinema is closing on the 5th of June, and we don't know what's going to happen to this great instrument. There are 3 of those instruments in Weston-super-Mare. There can't be another town in England with 3 pipe organs built by John Compton in the 1930s. Leader, what are we doing to converse with the Odeon management as to the future of the building and the future of that magnificent organ which is within the building?
Thank you, John, and I completely agree with your comments. I think we were all concerned when we heard about the threat to the Odeon Cinema and the intention for its closure. A very important, iconic building in the centre of Weston-super-Mare, and of course, as you mentioned, the organ as well, of course. And now you're back in harness as our heritage champion. I look forward to you playing an important role in terms of campaigning to save and protect that building. I'm pleased to say that I've already written to Odeon to ask for a senior level meeting with them to understand their intentions for the future of the site. And we've already got a team of officers looking at options and making sure that we can try and engage with the owners of the building to make sure that it is not lost and put at risk, because the last thing we want to see is that building ending up mothballed and another vacant property in the town centre, which is difficult to deal with. So we'll certainly do everything that we can to support the community in campaigning to save that building and critically to protect the organ.
Thank you. Councillor Petty?
Thank you. This question is for Councillor Caniford. Given the election has now passed, the residents of Backwell are asking what is next for the local plan. While I have significant respect for the level of work from our local council officers and support the ambitious policy work towards net zero and increasing our affordable housing delivery to 40%, I do not support the housing numbers in this document. I consider the local plan to be two distinct things. One, a suite of excellent policies to shape better homes and places for our future. The second is the number of homes needed and where these homes should be built. We've talked about this a lot in the last administration. The Conservative government's obsession with using the mutant algorithm and pleasing the major house builders has put a target on our area's backs, and which is ridiculous and impossible. Building new homes is a good thing, but destroying our whole area based on Westminster's number crunching is not. To fill in those who were not here before, Backwell is a village of 1,800 homes, and the current draft of the plan has an additional 1,100 homes to be built surrounding it. That's a 60% increase on housing to one village. So I'm pretty sure that each of you in your wards would question if that was a fair and sustainable expansion of your communities. So the question is, will you disregard these ludicrous housing targets sent down by the Conservatives in Westminster, and will you work up a new housing target based on the needs of our region? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Bridget, and I think it's probably good to get straight back into this subject immediately with the new council. I agree with you in terms of the suite of policies. You know, we worked harder this time than we've ever done before on what we want to see developed rather than how much we want to see developed. And I think it's fair to say that my position and my group's position hasn't changed from that we had in the last administration, which I hope gives you some comfort, and that I'm sure yours doesn't either. The housing numbers are clearly too high for North Somerset, is the feeling that we have, but that is not a decision of mine, it is a decision of the full council. So they will have to make that decision. But I can assure you that I will continue to work, trying to see a lower number, an appropriate number, a housing needs number, and not a number that has just been dumped on us by central government because they are playing up to the developers. And I would like to see us approach that as a full council again and come up with a plan to look at the constrained approach that we have had in the past and work towards that. Now, I can't promise that will happen. I can promise that we will try to make that happen, but the council will have to make that decision, and the council might have a different feeling, and I can't enforce that. So I hope that gives you some comfort.
I must say thank you to councillors. Your questions are brief, to the point, and very succinct. Over to Councillor McQuillan.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Question for Councillor Mark Canniford, please. And again, I will try and be brief. In the vein of listening to residents, we heard a lot about earlier, as well as all the speakers around Clevedon Seafront, we had a very eloquent speaker from Abbottsley talking about the greenbelt development between Abbottsley and Lee Woods and the concerns that residents have there, where the scale of this development is like nothing seen before on this sort of allotment development, and I think we can all agree deserves proper scrutiny, particularly considering the issues raised around highway safety and the use potentially of shipping containers on a greenbelt site of some significance. Given this, can I please ask you to outline what the council has done to date and what it will do to ensure that this matter is looked at thoroughly, carefully, taking proper legal advice, and how residents will be able to engage and be listened to within that process? Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart, for that. And Sophie did speak very well earlier. I mean, I was surprised to find out this just before the elections in terms of venture capital trusts now wanting to get into allotments. I mean, it's an interesting thought. Where we are currently is there has been 2 applications put forward to the council. One regarding the containers, which officers have now concluded needs a planning application. And the second one regarding the allotments themselves, and I have to agree that I have some concerns around traffic movements, etc. No doubt about that. That is still being advised. They have taken legal advice. There was very good advice, legal advice that has come down from Abbottsley Parish Council, and that certainly is being looked at by officers. They haven't pushed that to the back, and they are looking at those. And I think it's fair to say that we all want to see a process where we as councillors and the public get, in light of what's been said tonight, the opportunity to give those views. But in defence of our officers and in defence of PNR, who will make that decision, we do have to follow the laws of our land. However, we will continue to push for a proper scrutiny of that decision if we can get that way.
Thank you. Next is Councillor Bryant.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, a question for Councillor Bell. Councillor Bell, it has come to my notice that the bus hub centred in the heart of the town of Weston-super-Mare, has been extremely profitable for the council in taking in excess of £500,000 in motoring fines over the past 12 months. Indeed, on average, 38 drivers are caught driving in the prohibitive area every day. The fine is £70 per offence, but if paid within 21 days is reduced to £35. It is extremely lucrative for the council, and yet there's something amiss here. It is signposted, yes, but to say it's an offence to drive in the area, and yet drivers are repetitively doing so, why? It doesn't make sense. So what's amiss? I can only think that the signs, although perfectly legal, do not stand out sufficiently well enough for drivers to realise the potential error and avoid entering the prohibitive area, where they will be clocked by cameras. The word slam dunk comes readily to mind. What a rewarding scheme. If a private business was exploiting residents and visitors in this manner, the local authority would, I'm sure, stand on the high ground, throw the book at them as being shameful and disgraceful.
Could I ask what your question is, please, Councillor Bryant?
Yes, Madam Chairman, would you let me please continue?
A question, please?
Yes, the question is coming because I want to know what you're doing. But, Madam Chairman, not everybody in this hall know that this is happening. And I've looked around the room and I've seen some astonishing looking faces. So if you don't mind, Madam, I will continue and I won't be long.
I take your word for it. A question.
So, however, as I said, if a private business was exploiting residents and visitors in this manner, the local authority would, I'm sure, stand on the high ground, throw the book at them as being shameful and a disgrace to the neighbourhood. But this is the local authority. And plainly, and looking around the room with a look of astonishment, people do not realise that this is happening, although it's gainful income for the council. I'm bringing this to the attention of the council as a whole, and therefore, if you'll excuse me, what do I suggest? 1, far larger and prominent signage.
Sorry, could we please have your question?
The greater majority of drivers can
Could we
well
please
observe
have your question?
well before making the fateful error of driving in this money-consuming area. Throughout the authority, we can constantly remind drivers when they are driving in 20-mile areas, 20 miles an hour areas.
Sorry,
by large warning signs.
I'm sorry, we need your question, otherwise we may have to mute you.
Right, very well, Madam Chairman, you got it. It's coming now. So, Leader of the Council, Councillor Mike Bell, need I say more than this is happening on your watch, and what's more, your patch.
And what is the question?
Central Ward. So what are you going to do about it?
So that's your question. Thank you very much. Well, that was the least succinct question we've had tonight.
It's all right, we got to the end eventually, didn't we? Thank you for your question. What can I say about this? So, I mean, I think there's a few things that I would say. So, first of all, when the bus hub was first put into place and the ANPR enforcement cameras were installed, the ward councillors for the town centre engaged very closely to make sure that there was good quality signage and information for drivers. I don't remember, Councillor Bryant, you engaging in that process and contributing your list of ideas that you've just reeled off, but never mind. We live and learn, don't we? For the first couple of months that the enforcement regime was in place, no fines were issued, and in fact, informal letters were sent to motorists that had inadvertently driven through the hub, advising them that there were fines in place, and in future they should be more careful. So that was particularly important for local users of the area, so that they were informed and fairly advised. There was extensive publicity through the local newspapers, a lot of publicity actually, because it led to further improvements in the signage, including very large letters written on the road to advise people that they're entering a bus hub, and very good signage. Now, unfortunately, some motorists, indeed I believe this extends right to very high office, including the Home Secretary, some motorists do break the rules from time to time. And unfortunately, that means that they must bear the brunt of that and pay their fines, which is exactly what has been happening. Why are the fines there? They are there to maintain the space as effective for pedestrians and for bus passengers and for bus traffic, in line with government policy, which directed us to use some of our bus service improvement plan funding to make sure that we give greater priority to buses and bus users. I would absolutely encourage all motorists to obey the law and not break it, and if they do break it, to pay the fines. The important thing, though, is that the fines are not shoved down the back of the sofa or used for pet projects or any of the things that you might imagine. They are used to further invest in improving bus services. So frankly, even if people are foolish enough to ignore the signs and drive through there anyway, the money generated is benefiting the whole community across North Somerset, enabling us to invest further in bus services. If you have some specific suggestions about how signage can be improved, I'm very happy to have a conversation with you after.
Supplementary, Chair.
No, I'm sorry.
Chairman,
no, we're moving.
Ask your solicitor, I am allowed a supplementary question.
If you promise it's a question.
Chairman, all matters are at your discretion.
Ah. Moving on. Councillor Williams. Is it Councillor Williams? Yeah? No? I've frightened them even more, haven't I? Councillor Shopland, a nice question from you, Councillor Shopland. Thank you.
It's a question on public health.
Can I ask who you're directing this to? Right. Leader? Jenna. Sorry, I've lost my list.
Well, the question very simply is this: has this council at present a rodent and vermin control policy? Are they awake down there, ma'am?
Sorry, could you please repeat the question? It was a little bit noisy.
Could you repeat the question, please?
The question is, has this council a vermin and... Sorry. A rodent and vermin control policy? The answer is yes. The supplementary is very simple. Can that be made easily and freely available to the public? Because no one knows it exists.
I presume so.
Thank you. We've had a yes and a yes. Thank you very much. Succinct and to the point. Councillor Gibbons. Did you not signify you wanted?
I was merely going to make a comment to Councillor Charles earlier about the post office campaign, but I'll speak to him privately.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for Councillor Caniford. You talked earlier about the government target for housing. Can I ask then why the field in Nailsea, the Uplands, which is owned by North Somerset Council, which could have been kept green for people's mental physical well-being, why North Somerset have decided to put houses on this field when there's private fields all around with planning applications? Seems to go against what policy says.
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure what policy it goes against. However, the council has a responsibility to act on all residents' needs, and this was a piece of land deemed feasible for development by this council. It gained the proper planning permissions through planning and regulatory, and I really don't know what else to say. I believe the development is going to be an extremely good one of high quality and provide 30% affordable housing for people who need it in the Nailsea area. I also am under the impression that the developer will give the heads up to Nailsea residents so they can get their requirements and wishes in first if they choose to want to buy one. That is not a legal position, but I believe the parish council will be aware of it first, so it can publicise if it chooses to.
So just confirming then, the housing on North Somerset land was more important than mental physical well-being, even though there's other planning applications therein.
I would assume that you don't. I assume you don't consider the mental well-being of people who haven't got homes important by your answer.
Along the lines, as I already stated, there are lots of other planning applications in.
Thank you. Moving on, Councillor Cartman.
My question is for Councillor Young. It's to do with the Long Ashton bypass bus lane, which has caused some controversy locally. I am concerned that it was implemented very quickly without due process and review. Does she know whether can she find out if there'll be a review, particularly so that changes can be made and lessons can be learned in advance of a similar move on the road into Portishead, please?
Thank you for your question. That is one that I would like to take away and come back with an answer for you. Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. My question is for Councillor Gibbons. We've had a second Ofsted report that is inadequate and not very good, and it's showing that children's services don't seem to be improving from the last one. Can I ask, what are you doing to fix it, and can we have some timescales on how things are improving, and some more detail, please?
Thank you. Yes, first of all, I'd have to say that it isn't inadequate. It requires improvement to be good, which is a banding, and there are scales within that. But I'm not going to make excuses. We're not where we want to be. However, if you read the report, there's been significant praise for the strategic vision that we have for children's services and the fact that we have the right plan in place. One of the key things with Ofsted, and I have a fair bit of experience in that now, is that it's really important to be an organisation that knows itself and understands its weaknesses. And we've been very upfront in saying we know where we need to work harder on quality assurance, for example. We have a plan in place. There are significant challenges, not least with recruitment and retention of staff. That's not unique to North Somerset, but it's something that we have challenged ourselves over. We've now got a micro-site that deals specifically with recruitment of the relevant staff, and I think it's fair to say we're on a good path. We want to get to being good, if not outstanding, and that's my personal ambition for the next 4 years. And I welcome any input that you have, and I hope that you maybe will join in the corporate parenting panel or anything else, because I know you're committed to the well-being of our young people. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Catherine. Councillor Gibbons. And thank you for your questions, which were succinct and precise. And as I said earlier, could you please pass them on to the solicitor for the minutes? Great. Thank you very much indeed. Reports and matters referred from executive, none at the moment. I'm sure there'll be some at the next meeting. Reports from the policy overview and scrutiny panels, none at the moment. I'm sure there'll be some at the next meeting. Reports referred from the other committees, none. Reports on joint arrangements, I think we have none at the moment, but obviously we will have some at the next meeting. And the last item, Police Authority, I'm so sorry.
Just a brief one, Madam Chairman. Just to say that had a recent meeting up at Police HQ, which talked about dealing with reoffending. And they've set up a team of, with the police, education and training services to look at the ways that we can teach and train offenders when they leave prison rather than reoffend. And that's something which is quite big they're looking into. There's one office operating at the moment at Bridewell, and there'll shortly be opening one at Wirral Parkway. The other good news, Chairman, is by this time next month, the police will be up to full strength for what they need, and we've had funding for additional 80 officers for the short term, which means the 2 neighbourhood teams, which are assigned to North Somerset, should be fully operational in a short time. And can I just say, can I thank my colleague Richard Westwood, We've worked well together over the last 2 years. In fact, we moved some things forward, and I look forward to Steve joining me over the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Thank you.
Business? Sorry? I didn't hear what you said. Thank you very much. No urgent business. Thank you, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed your first full council meeting.